Greetings, I'm Margaret Kalb, and we're going to be talking about Italian opera in this presentation. I hope everyone enjoys the blog setup. I think it's easier to use when the selections follow each video, and that way they're ready and you can just click on them and we can start. So, let's get started. If you thought of operas so far as being dry and having little change in moods, tempos, and little action, then don't fear, because Italian opera is here to save you from those thoughts. I know opera isn't my cup of tea, but after looking into Italian opera, I understand the forms of it, and these selections I have chosen for this presentation are fun and exciting, and I hope that you think the same after we're done. In the early 19th century, composers tried a new structure of their Italian operas. They consisted of longer arias and duets that would help change the moods and the tempos in the works, while keeping the music action-packed. The scenes would start with the orchestra playing an introduction and a recitative section that would help set the scene. The section afterwards will differentiate depending on if they are an aria or a duet. The aria is set up as the following: the scena recitative, which is the orchestration introduction, followed by the primo tempo, which is the first movement and is in a slow tempo. Then in the second movement we have tempo di mezzo, which is for the ensemble, and finally a cabaletta, which is often very fast. A duet is set up closely related. We have the scena recitative at the beginning, tempo di attacco, which is an opening movement, a slow second movement, then the tempo di mezzo in the third movement, and finally a cabaletta. During the cabaletta, this gave the singers the chance to show off their voice and bring the scene to an exciting close. Usually between the movements there will be an action piece, or other known as a transition, between the different movements done by an ensemble or choir. This structure can be viewed on page 458 of your textbook, and some of the music we will be listening to can relate back to this form. One of the first composers to adopt this new form of opera was Gioachino Rossini. Rossini wrote both opera buffa, which is a comical opera, and opera seria, which was more serious and dramatic. With both of these kinds of works, it made Rossini one of the most popular and influential composers during this era of music. Rossini started his career by attending Bologna Conservatory, where he studied music composers like Haydn and Mozart. These composers left an impact on his music and were very influential in his music. He was a singer and knew the capabilities of voices and what they should be able to do. By the age of 21, he had written his first opera, and was then able to crank out operas in as little as a month. He married Isabella Colbren, who was a soprano singer. They worked together for his opening of one of his operas, and then they settled in Paris, where Rossini became the director of the Theatre Italien. One of Rossini's most famous works was titled Il Barber di Sevilla, or easier said as The Barber of Seville. This was an opera buffa using a new style of opera called bel canto, or beautiful music. This was an effortless vocal technique where the singers would use a beautiful tone and extend through their vocal range while showing their agility and control. Rossini thought that the voice was more important than any other factor in the opera, like the staging, orchestra, or even the story. The Barber of Seville was patter arias. These rapid and clever movements are mixed with nonsensical syllables and sung with fast speed and precision. Listen to the first selection of music, really focusing from the beginning to about 2 minutes and 30 seconds.